This is the demonstration video for my AI assignment. So if we head straight over to the data set, you can see we've got customer, gender, age, annual income, and spending score. Now the two I want to focus on here mainly are annual income and spending score. My algorithm is going to effectively take every customer in the list and it's going to cluster them based on their spending score against their annual income. So, for example, you might see a cluster that's got high spenders with also a high income, or the polar opposite, low spenders on a low income as well. And then you also have the different kind of permutations of what that data set might look like as kind of decided by this algorithm. So if I head over here then, I kind of talk through each kind of key section of what we've got here. So the first thing we're loading in is the data set, obviously. That's where we're going to do that's how we're going to be able to do all our work with the data set to actually kind of train the model. Heading down then, extracting the relevant headings. So like I said, we only really want the annual income and the spending score. So we bring them both in as they're kind of headed in the Excel file. If we move down to scale the headings, isn't really that important. If we go down to optimal number of clusters, so this is the first kind of key section that I want to focus on. So the optimal number of clusters, what we're doing is we're actually finding out the best number of clusters to sort this data into. So you don't want to do too few because the clusters will be too kind of oversaturated, but you don't want to spread them too thin either. So to do that, we use the elbow method. What this is going to do, this piece of code here, is it's going to use the elbow method to decide our optimal number, and then further down here, as you can see, it's going to plot that. Now when I run that, I'll show that off in just a second. Moving further down then, we have effectively the rest of it. So we're then going to perform the clustering using k-means. This is all in the documentation as well. Labeling, so on and so forth, clustering as well. And then the key thing here is the bottom where it's actually going to display this information. So the clustering is going to get carried out here, and it's then going to be displayed on a graph in this way here. So we're using different colors, different labels and things. As you can see here, we've got centroids highlighted in black. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and run that and we'll see what we get. So if we just click on this section here, this is going to give me all of my key information. So first thing you can see is this elbow curve. Now the way the elbow curve works is it takes the WCSS value against the prospective k number of clusters. So as you can see, we're climbing up on our k number here from sort of 0 up to 10. And as you can see here, the first point we get where there isn't a significant kind of change is 5. So that is our kind of optimal number, and you'll see that kind of showing off really well in the graph at the end as well. So if we head down here then, this is where we start to get a breakdown of our clusters. So as you can see here, customer ID 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. It's kind of, sorry, excuse me, that's the wrong thing. 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. It's kind of picking out the correct customers for that kind of cluster. So you can see by this one, just based on the data we've got here, we've got low annual income, sort of starting at 15k and ending up down at sort of over $39,000. And then if you go here, you can see our spending score is up nearer the hundreds, suggesting a generally higher spending score. So what you're going to have is you're going to have these customers in a cluster themselves, showing that they don't make too much, but they do like to spend a lot of the money that they earn. Going down to our next one then, our annual income is sort of on a medium level, and so is our spending cost. So you sort of see the scores. So you sort of see in the 40s to the 60s on both sides here, meaning that we're kind of at a similar level for each of those. Going down again then, our third cluster, this is one of our larger ones. We've got a high annual income, starting at sort of 69,000, moving up into the hundreds, and a high spending as well. So everything here is over sort of, 73? So you're up in your upper quartile of spending score here for the data set, alongside your high earners. So then, moving down again to our fourth cluster, we've got the high earners and the low spenders. So as you can see, again, all above kind of $70,000 there, into the high into the hundreds, but our spending score is nice and low. We're not really going above 30 here from what I can see, but maybe they're 36. But everything seems relatively low for our spending score, despite the high earnings of these customers. Finally, in our last cluster is your low annual income and your generally low spending. So we've got a bit of data scattered all over, but you can see we've got spending scores as low as 4, only really pushing as high as sort of 35, 40, in here as well. So that's kind of showing your low income and low spend. So finally then, to summarise all this data, we look for the graph, the kind of the scatter graph where all this data is put together. And as you can see, we've got our clusters, we've got our labels, we've got our scales, loads going on here. So the first thing I want to focus on is the centroids. These black dots here, that's our kind of center of our clusters. So as you can see, all of our clusters are kind of focused around these centroids. You know, all the kind of the most concentrated parts of the data made up by the data points is where we find the centroids in each cluster. And as you can see, these 5 clusters are quite clearly defined, showing us that Elbow method was in fact right. Equally, our furthest away data points are still kind of clustering in with their closest centroid, showing us that that clustering method using k-means is working as well. As you can see, these furthest out orange ones here aren't overlapping with these red ones. These red ones are still nice and close to their centroids despite pushing into the orange territory. There's no overlaps there, which is another key indicator that our clustering is working effectively. So yeah, that's kind of that's the algorithm. We've got our elbow curve. We've got our clustering kind of breakdown, showing us which pieces of data within the data set are falling into which cluster. And then if we go all the way down, we can see that cluster kind of visualized in a graph there as well. So yeah, that's the end of that.